for sharing your introductions in the chat. And with that, I would also like to welcome everyone to this webinar, and thank you all for joining us today and for sharing your introductions. We are really thrilled to have you here, and whether you have just started to explore certifications or if you're actively studying for an exam, or if you're basically trying to figure out your career goals, you're in the right place today. And when you are looking at Agile certifications, there's usually a lot of confusion out there about CSM or CSPO, and that is exactly what we are going to address in today's webinar. We also have a wonderful speaker, Luisa Viegas, joining us today. So I will introduce her shortly. And by the end of the session, we hope that you understand exactly what each certification covers, how they differ, and what to realistically expect when you sit for the exam, and most importantly, how to study smart so you can pass with confidence. So that is what we're going to do in today's webinar. And because you guys also introduced yourself, I think I should also introduce myself. I'm Shweta, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Right? And without wasting any more time, let's dive in. And we will start with the ground rules for this webinar. And I think we usually do this for all of our webinars as well. If you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A box. If you share your questions in the chat, what usually happens is there's a chance that we miss out on these messages in the chat because there's a huge volume of messages. So please ask your questions in the Q&A box, and please use this chat box effectively, and let's keep the conversations relevant to today's topic. If you have any other conversations going on, we would really not recommend that, and please refrain from sharing any external links in the chat as well. And for your attendance certificate, which is a question we get asked a lot, we will be sharing a poll towards the end of the webinar. You can fill up your full name and you will be receiving the recording, the slide deck for today's webinar, but you will have to stay till the end of the webinar, and you will receive all of this within 48 working hours once the webinar is completed. And I hope that provides clarity for all of you regarding what to expect and what the webinar is going to be about. So with that, I just want to quickly ask if any of you have attended our webinars before, or is this your first time? I'm just a little curious. You can let me know in the chat. For anyone joining us from YouTube and LinkedIn, you can definitely comment down below and we'll keep a note of that as well. So I'm just taking a look at the chat. If it's your first time, you can write first in the chat. And if it's your second or third time, you can let us know about that as well. So I can see a few members mentioning first time. A lot of first timers, actually. That's great to know. And I can also see a few members mentioning second time. So for anyone who's joining us for the very first time, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us. And for anyone who has come back again, and some are mentioning even multiple times, it's really wonderful to have you back here. Great to see that you are attending a lot of our webinars. So you might be aware about Simplilearn. For everyone who is joining us for the first time, I'm just going to quickly take a minute to explain what we do at Simplilearn. So at Simplilearn, we help transform lives by empowering people with digital skills, and we do these through courses. Currently, we have helped over 8 million learners advance their careers across 150 plus countries, and we do this through global partnerships with key industry partners and university partners, like you can see on the screen. Some of our partners are Google, Microsoft, VT, UCSD, and a lot more. You can refer to the same on our website as well. Another thing I wanted to highlight, as usual, is about why our programs at Simplilearn stand out. So most of our learners have reported a 50% salary hike on completion of courses with us, and we have also been rated 4.8 out of 5 by most of our learners. And we're really happy to say that we have a graduation rate of 80%. So this also speaks about the kind of experience that you can hope to have with Simplilearn if in case you choose to join our courses or our webinars as well. So with that, I think I'm going to come to the most exciting part for me as a host. I always absolutely love introducing our guest speakers. And today, it's my absolute privilege to introduce someone I personally look up to and deeply admire, Luisa Viegas. So Luisa brings over 25 years of real-world experience across predictive, hybrid, and agile environments. And what I truly respect about her is that she just does not teach these frameworks, but she's actually lived them through different projects. She understands what happens inside teams, inside organizations, and inside the mind of someone who's preparing for a certification. So she's also PMP certified, DASM master, a Scrum certified, and she aligns her teaching with globally recognized frameworks like you can all see on the screen right now. And she focuses on exam mindset, on role clarity, and most importantly, she focuses on practical application, because passing an exam is one thing, but truly understanding what the role is what builds a career. And she is doing exactly that. And we're also happy to say that she is a Simplilearn mentor with us and a master's level instructor. So it's an absolute privilege to have someone like her join us. So, Luisa, thank you once again for joining us. And I'm sure everyone is waiting to hear more from you. So, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thank you so much, Shweta. I am very excited to be here. I have been working with Simplilearn as a PMP instructor and on our Virginia Tech program management certification program. But this is my first webinar, so I'm very excited to do this and share a little bit more of the experience. I am very focused not just on teaching these international frameworks, but making sure that my students or my potential applicants, they understand what these certification bodies are thinking when they design the exams, so that they can make sure that they choose the certification that applies for them very confidently with a lot of clarity, and that they can move forward in their careers. So I think you've said a lot about me already. What else I can add? I am originally from Colombia, but I've been living in the United States for half of my life already, like 25 years. And my background is in communications and political science, which sometimes people wonder, project management and communication and political science. But as we know, especially with artificial intelligence, taking over a lot of project management and agile tasks, having those soft skills have proven very, very useful. And we'll talk a little bit about those soft skills and how they relate to these two certifications as well. So very excited to be here, Shweta. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm sure everyone's as excited as I am for today's webinar. I think before we move ahead, we will quickly have a poll for everyone. So, Luisa, do you want to take them through that?
Sure, absolutely. So we want to hear a little bit about where are you today? Some of you have already mentioned that you're working on your PMP. We actually have some alumni and some instructor from our PMP program. So great to have you here. So tell us if you're exploring Agile certifications, if you're already working in a Scrum team, if this is completely new, if you already have a decision made about taking a CSM or a CSPO soon, if you have perhaps already taken the exam and maybe are considering another attempt. So where are you in your journey? And this decision is going to matter a lot, and you're going to get today a lot of information and tools if you're still undecided about which Agile certification to pursue. So it would help us a lot to sort of understand where are you in your journey. So let's see. And again, I know that some of you in your introduction already shared that you are already PMPs, that you're already working towards one of the certifications.
I'm receiving a few responses from YouTube and LinkedIn. So we have 2 to 3 people who are already working in the Scrum team and some who are considering CSPO right now. So I think the audience is quite diverse.
Okay. And that is wonderful because even if this is mostly new to you and you're still kind of confused about what this means, or if you're already sort of making your decision, I think this webinar is going to give you very good tools to move confidently in your next step. Okay.
Or
Uh,
yeah, um, if you, I hope the chat, I saw a message in the chat that there is a lot of background echo and lagging. I think this is I think this is happen. Is this happening to everyone? You can let us know and we will try to fix it.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I'm going to lower my volume here just in case. Sound is okay. Okay, so it may be no echo. Okay, good. So it may just be on your end, Christine. Maybe logging in and logging in again could help solve
Okay.
that. Okay, so working towards CSM, taking it soon. Wonderful. So we have a lot of different stages of this journey that you guys are on. And so I think this will definitely help you continue that journey more confidently. So again, choosing between the CSM and the CSPO is going to have an impact on the type of work that you do, your day to day. How are you going to be working with leadership in your organization? What is your long-term career path? I think this is a critical one. We'll talk a little bit more about this. And then also your compensation trajectory. We're going to be talking a little bit more about what are the expected salary ranges, understanding obviously that these may vary by geographical, location and whatnot, but to just give you an idea. So I think we
Yeah.
can move forward, Shweta.
Yes. So the next part is mostly about understanding the roles. And now that we have a lot of people who are, a few of them are actually freshers who have messaged us on YouTube and LinkedIn. So they also would require some clarity around CSPM, CSPO and CSM. So, Luisa, can you explain who a Scrum Master is versus who a product owner so they can have clarity around these roles?
Absolutely. So, as you know, in Agile methodologies and specifically in Scrum, we have very defined roles. And so, the three critical roles are the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the team. So, today we're going to be talking about the Scrum Master and the product owner. So, a certified Scrum Master is the person that knows the Scrum framework really, really well, that understands the ceremonies, the roles, and that is going to be working to facilitate implementing the Scrum process for the Scrum team. So they approach this work with very servant leadership. They're always looking out for how to remove impediments, making sure they're protecting the team so that they're not distracted. They are going to act as a coach, perhaps for people that are not very familiar with the Scrum methodology. So making sure that they understand why ceremonies and roles and artifacts are important for the Scrum methodology. So in a way, they are the ones that are sort of protecting the process. They are the ones that are going to focus value on the process of the Scrum methodology. Now, the product owner is going to be the person that owns the vision of the product. They know the product really well. They understand the business environment. They understand the stakeholders. And because of that, they have the last word on prioritizing the backlog. For those of you maybe not familiar with all this terminology, the backlog is the list of the known work that we're going to do for our product. So the increments or the features or the solving the bugs or the issues. So the known work at the time for a specific product is what we call the backlog. And the product owner is going to have the last word on saying how we prioritize that backlog. What is the work that we're going to tackle first in order to maximize business value? These three words are key. They are looking out to make sure that the stakeholders and specifically the client, the customer, is going to derive value from the work that my team is doing. So one, the Scrum Master is focused on process, the product owner is focused on product. They bring value in different approaches of the Scrum methodology.
Right. Thank you for explaining that in so much detail, and I'm sure everyone can actually clearly understand the difference between both. But a lot of people, wonder what kind of role actually suits them. So, can you specifically highlight what they can try to understand which role fits them for their personality or the kind of strengths that they may have?
Sure. So, who thrives in each role? So, a Scrum Master is going to be a person that is very process oriented. So, they tend to like structure, they like kind of understanding rules, boundaries. They're very good communicators. This is where I think my profile aligns a lot better with a Scrum Master than a CSPO, because I do have very strong communication skills. Because of my political science background, I understand diplomacy, conflict resolution, being a mediator. I have a very client-oriented and service-oriented mindset. So I have the servant leadership approach that is very much needed for for a Scrum Master. So if you identify with these skills, process oriented, you like facilitating, you like enabling teams, you are the person that they call to solve conflicts, you have a very neutral or very conflict resolution approach to when there are discussions or disagreements in a team, then you might align better with the CSM. Now, if you're more a strategic thinker, you're very business oriented, you like to think in terms of ROI, return on investment, you think about economic and financial terms, you're very decisive, you are very comfortable saying no, you're not afraid of making decisions, and you work with different stakeholders but understand that you have the last word and you're going to make decisions, then a product owner role may be more fitting for you.
Right. And I think that's a very clear distinction between both for our audience as well. And I hope this provides insight for everyone who's joined us today. And now that you spoke about the mindset and the personality fit, I think we should also talk about the exam structure, because for anyone who's preparing for these exams, their questions would be around the formats, the expectations, and the pressure levels also for both of them. So are they really different? Could you please walk us through the different formats that they can expect?
Absolutely, yeah, they're very different. So let's walk through each of them. So for the Certified Scrum Master, the CSM, you are going to have an exam, a formal exam. That is a key difference. They're both 2-day mandatory live trainings, but the CSM is going to have a multiple choice question exam, 50 questions. You have 60 minutes for this exam, so a little bit over a minute for each question. And you have a passing criteria of 74%. That is 37 questions, minimum of 37 questions out of the 50 to be successful. And 2 attempts at this exam are included. So if you have a need to retake the exam after that, that is extra, but you do have 2 attempts that are included. And what is going to be evaluated is that you have mastered the theory, the understanding of the Scrum framework. So it is going to be requiring that you understand the ceremonies, that you understand the roles, that you understand the pillars and the values of Scrum. There's a lot of scenario-based questions. They want to make sure that you know how to apply this knowledge into different scenarios, and clarity of the framework is going to be the key aspect here. Now, talking about the CSPO, it's a little bit different because there is no formal exam as such. However, don't think that is, like you join the webinar and then you go out to lunch and forget about it. These are very hands-on trainings. So there's going to be a lot of participation, interaction, case scenarios, role playing. And so the instructor is going to sort of have the last word to determine that you have successfully completed the training. And after you have successfully completed the training, that is when you will receive the license agreement in order for you to then be certified. So there is no multiple question, there is no time limit, there are no, attempts. It is basically a 2-day, very intensive training where you're going to be expected to be actively engaged in order to then receive that certification. What is going to be evaluated here? It's more that you are able to understand product ownership, how to derive value from a product, where are your boundaries and your responsibilities as a product owner, what can you delegate and what can you not delegate as a product owner. So that is going to be the focus of that, vetting the knowledge that you have acquired through that training.
Right. Thank you for clearly differentiating both. And I think we got one question about the CSM exam. If it is an open book exam, that was the question.
Is an exam. It's not open book. So the difference is that the CSPO, there is no exam. So you're going to be working more interactively, doing exercises, role playing, case scenarios during the training, while for CSM, it is a formal exam.
And there's one more question I think that we have to address before we move on. So which one of these goes more hand in hand with PMP?
Either one. So as we said, I think the most important distinction here is there's several things that you can keep in mind. I describe some of the skills. So which one feels more aligned with your personality? But beyond that, another thing to consider is your actual role. So if you already are working on a Scrum team or in an Agile methodology, what is your current role? That could help you decide which exam to take. Ultimately, I think it is critical that you understand what is your career path. What do you see yourself doing in the future, right? Because that is going to be then determining which of these credentials should you obtain. Now, let's also mention that a lot of people that work on Scrum teams end up doing both certifications. So you will see that a lot of Agile professionals eventually get both certifications because that gives them a lot of breadth and deep understanding of how Scrum works. But in order to choose a first one, the one that aligns more with your current role, I think would be important. And also, as I mentioned, thinking about your career path.
Right. That was great advice. Thanks for sharing that with the audience. And I hope that clarified your queries as well. So now that we actually understand how the exam is structured, the next important question is what exactly should one focus on if they are preparing for CSM? Is it about the Scrum guide or do they have to dive deeper into the exam aspect? So, Luza, can you walk us through the key focus areas for CSM and what candidates often overlook because you have already trained so many people in this?
Sure. So it is important to note that both of these certifications are offered by Scrum Alliance. So it's just they approach the Scrum framework from different perspectives and different roles. So for CSM, for the Scrum Master, the focus areas are going to be on mastering the framework. So you do have to know that Scrum Guide really well. You have to understand the roles, the events, the artifacts, and what are their boundaries. Like when do they finish? When do they end? How long do they last? Because the Scrum framework is extremely prescriptive. So you do have to know exactly, how long does a daily stand-up meeting go? What is a demo? What is a retrospective? What is a product backlog? What is a sprint backlog? These are all the terminologies that you will need to know and understand how they apply to real work in a Scrum team. Very important to have that servant leadership mindset. Okay, so remember that the CSM, what they are doing is removing impediments. So they are always going to approach the team that is doing the work, asking them, how can I help you do your work better? What challenges, what roadblocks do you have? And how can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? So they are more doing facilitation and coaching than giving orders or making decisions, right? So there's a little bit of a difference with the product owner. They are going to also be in charge of facilitating the different events. So for example, they are going to make sure that the daily stand-up is for the 3 questions that we answer in the daily stand-up, which are, what did we accomplish yesterday? What are we trying to accomplish today? And what are my roadblocks? They don't necessarily have to micromanage the events, but they are there to make sure that the events are done the right way. Okay? They are also going to understand the Scrum theory and the values very, very well. As we know, we have 3 pillars for Scrum and we also have 5 values. So they are going to make sure that if there is a situation that feels murky, that they don't know how to approach, the Scrum Master is going to go back to those pillars on those 5 values, making sure that the decision that is made is aligned with the Scrum methodology, right? And then they are also going to have to know how to apply this knowledge in scenario-based questions. So that is going to be a critical aspect of preparing for that exam. And it is taking those mock-up practices, taking those scenario-based questions, and understanding how to apply the theory to real-world scenarios.
Right.
So that would be for CSM. If you want, we can look at the CSPO next.
Yes.
So for the product owner, the key areas are going to be a little bit different. The product owner, as the name says, they are focused on the product itself. The Scrum Masters focus on process, the product owner is focused on product. So they are very in tune with the product. They know the product very well. They are leading the product vision. Where do we want to take this product? What is my roadmap? What are the features or increments or abilities of this product that we want to work on? And the product owner is going to prioritize the work for maximum business value. So if we have a list of tasks or increments or features, the product owner is going to look at that list and say, we're going to start with this feature because this is the first one we want to launch to market. We believe, or I believe, in communication with my stakeholders that this is going to bring the most value to my customers. So this is how we're going to prioritize the work. That is what prioritizing the backlog means. So they, as I just mentioned, they own that backlog. They are the ones that are going to, in working with the stakeholders and the team, they are going to be adding or taking out items to the backlog, and they are the ones that are going to prioritize or refine or groom. We have all these words are applying to the same process, which is moving up or down in prioritization, the list of tasks or the list of work that we have ahead of us. They are going to be the point of contact, the main point of contact for the different stakeholders. So they are going to be in continuous communication with the customer, with senior management, with the vice presidents, with functional departments, with the team, with the Scrum Master. So they also have to have very good communication skills, and they are going to have to be very good at managing competing demands. Because as you know, when we work in projects, everybody wants something different. And so the product owner is the one that is going to say, this sounds like a great idea, but let's put it on the back burner for now because I am prioritizing these other items that are going to bring more value to my client. So they are also thinking in terms of release planning. What items am I going to release first? What items am I going to leave for maybe another time because they are not as critical at this time? So they are going to make those trade-off decisions. If we invest our next sprint in doing this, we're leaving these other items behind. And how do I justify this decision to my customer? So they have accountability over the product, right? They also understand why they should, some things they're going to delegate and some things they should not delegating. They own the product vision, they own the product backlog, and that is going to be critical for demonstrating for the certification that you understand that responsibility and that you understand how to determine product value.
Right. I think you clearly told us what to focus on for CSM and CSPO, and that was great to hear from you. I think before we move ahead, there's also one question that I noticed from our audience. I think we should give them clarity on that. So, this person has asked, what are the differences in CSM versus PMI ACP?
Very good question. So the ACP is an Agile certification, right? So Agile is an umbrella term. It is a group of different mindsets and methodologies, one of which is a Scrum, right? But we also have, Kanban, for example, or Six Sigma, or you have, for example, sometimes companies, they take Agile and they develop their own methodology. So for example, Spotify has their own Agile methodology. They don't call it Scrum, they don't call it Agile, they call it the Spotify methodology, for example. So the ACP is going to give you a little bit more broad understanding of different Agile tools, methodologies, approaches, just more the mindset of working in Agile, while Scrum is one of many Agile methodologies or frameworks. Scrum is the most well known. That is why a lot of people, when they think about Agile, they think about Scrum teams and they think about sprints and they think about demos or retrospectives. But not all Agile is Scrum. So Scrum is one of the Agile methodologies, but not all Agile is Scrum. So the Agile certification, again, it's going to be more broad, while these Scrum certifications are very specific to that one methodology or approach that is called Scrum, which again is the most popular, is the most widely used, and this is why it is also considered very interesting in value. So you would think, if you see yourself working specifically on an organization that utilizes Scrum as their preferred Agile approach, then this would be the right certification for you. If perhaps you are in an organization or you want to explore a more broad Agile mindset and approach, then perhaps you could consider one of those other certifications. But Scrum is one of the most popular, and so we see a lot of organizations and companies that require their team members to have a Scrum certification because that is a specific methodology in which they operate.
Thanks for answering that question, and we hope that gave you clarity on your question. Like I mentioned, it would be great if you could ask your questions in the Q&A box. It helps us to keep a track of them as well. So I think now it's time for us to move on to the next segment. So now that we understand the rules, the exam format, and also the focus areas, the real question is basically how can they prepare for these exams? Because we also saw in the chat that a few of them are preparing for CSPO, some are preparing for CSM. So, how can they strategize effectively to not just take the exam, but to pass this exam confidently?
Absolutely. So let's think about how to prepare strategically if you are taking the exam. So first of all, you want to make sure that you're focusing on the role mindset. So understanding very well what a Scrum Master does versus what a product owner does. Not necessarily on memorization. Although for the Scrum Master certification, you do have to know that framework really, really well. In order to prepare for that exam, I recommend following a 2 or 3 week timeline. So on week one, you want to make sure that you understand the concepts and the Scrum guide very, very clearly. On week two, you can move on to scenario-based practice and mock-up questions. So focusing on eliminating the wrong answer. And there's often, and this is true for those of you that have taken the PMP as well, when you have multiple choice questions, you're often going to have, let's say, 4 answers. One is clearly wrong. And then there's maybe 2 or 3 that feel right, but there's only one that is the best answer, the one that aligns the most with the Scrum framework. So practicing eliminating those wrong answers, understanding how to apply that knowledge to scenario-based questions. And then on week 3, if you need it, sometimes people are ready within just 2 weeks. Then you, based on the results of your practice test, if there's an area where you're still weak, you could deep dive a little bit more on that area, and then also start practicing your timing. Because as I said, you have a little bit over a minute and 12 seconds for each question. So you want to start practicing working under that time pressure, right? And so finally, I would say some of the common pitfalls that people make when taking these exams is confusing a Scrum Master with a project manager. So remember, they're very different things. The project manager is either leading a fully traditional or waterfall team or perhaps a hybrid team. When we talk about Scrum, we don't talk about a project manager, and their role is very different. So if you are already a PMP, you have to make sure that you sort of take off your PM hat and you wear the Scrum Master or the product owner hat, right? So making sure that you do the mock practice, making sure that you practice with scenario based, and making sure that you are studying with applying the knowledge, not just reading and reading and reading passively, but actively applying that theory to your questions.
Right. I think that clearly answered everyone's questions about the strategy behind preparing for exams. And that brings us to the self-assessment part. So we have an interactive segment for our audience here. We would really like to see some engagement from your side. So you can all let us know in the chat. It would be fun if you all participate. So Luisa, I'm going to hand it over to you. Can you
Sure,
take them?
absolutely. And I know we have also a question here about which certification makes you more marketable for employment opportunities. So we're going to address that. But I think before we do that, I think doing the self-assessment could be very telling because you also don't want to force yourself into a role that doesn't align with you. So let's do the self-assessment and then we can address the marketability of each of the certifications. So let's answer the first question. So in a team discussion, do you usually focus on A, ensuring everyone's voice is heard, B, clarifying what problem we're solving, C, keeping the meeting structured and time bound, or D, aligning decisions with business impact? So if you want to share your answers on the chat, that could be fun. We see somewhere in here answering C. B, okay. See, this is where we're going to start seeing different personalities. I know my answers really clearly. I know what role I align with. Okay, we have some C, some B, some D's, some A's. Great. We're all over the place, and this is fantastic. Okay, keep track of your answers. Put them in a little piece of paper or something. Let's move on to question 2. When something goes wrong in a sprint, A sprint is the time box iteration of work. They usually last between, 1 and 4 weeks. So if something goes work in that time box working period, your first instinct is to A, facilitate a conversation to uncover root causes, B, reevaluate priorities and scope, C, protecting the team from external pressure, or D, assessing the impact on product delivery. What would you focus on first? What feels more natural to you? Or which task would you be more comfortable tackling first? Okay, I'm seeing some A's, some D's, some B's. This is great. This is why, this is why there's a good fit for everyone, right? And why we have different roles to respond to different personalities. Great. Okay. Okay, keep track of your questions. We're going to do 3 more questions, I believe. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, question number 3. You feel most satisfied when you A, improve how a team collaborates, B, decide what delivers the most value, C, remove obstacles blocking progress, or D, shape product direction. Okay, I see some C, some A, D. Great. Okay, keep track of those answers. We're almost there. In your next role, you would rather A, coach and guide teams, B, own backlog decisions, C, strengthen agile adoption, D, drive product outcomes. That's it. Or drive product outcomes. So A, B, C, or D. Let me see in the chat what you guys feel more comfortable with. B, C, A, D. Great. I think we're going to have Scrum Masters and product owners alike here. Okay, and last but not least, under pressure, do you naturally A, focus on team dynamics, B, make trade-off decisions, C, reinforce the Scrum principles, or D, prioritize what matters most to stakeholders? Okay, we have some C's, some D's, mostly C's and D's. Interesting. Some A's as well. Okay. I like the tallying of all the answers. That's good. Okay, so let's see how the results shape up, Shweta. Thank you. So if your answers lean toward A and C, you are likely more a better fit with a Scrum Master. Okay, you have that servant leadership approach, you like process, you like aligning teams, you feel more comfortable with that servant leadership role and removing obstacles and blockings. If your answers are leaning more toward B and D, then you're likely more aligning with a CSPO, a product owner. You're more strategic. You think in business terms, you think about investment, you think about value, you like to make decisions, you like to have the last word, and you are focusing on the product itself. If it's a mix, if it's balance, don't despair. It's okay. Some of you may have abilities and skills and interests for both certifications. So again, a lot of people end up having both certifications. So that is not something that you should rule out. Which one should you take first? Well, you could think about your long-term career direction, or I would say, what is your current role? What feels more natural? Because if you already have a role that aligns better with one of these, perhaps it is easier to build depth with something that feels familiar to you. So either way, you can't go wrong. They're both very useful certifications. And I think Shweta, this may lead us into the next slides and answering that question about which one is, more marketable. So let's talk about that.
Right. Yeah. So next, like you mentioned, we are going to talk about career growth paths with CSM and CSPO. So we would love to hear your inputs on that, on what they can expect if they choose either of these paths. So I'm just moving on to the next slide.
Sure. So the Scrum Master track, it moves more horizontally across teams. So you may start as a Scrum Master, then you can evolve as a senior Scrum Master, then you could be also an Agile coach, an enterprise Agile coach, which means that you're no longer coaching one team, but you are a coach for a complete organization. Or you could also become an Agile transformation lead. As we know, companies today, they are undergoing transformations. They are going through digital transformation processes, reorganizations, a lot of market acquisitions. Nowadays, companies are expected to evolve extremely quickly. And so somebody that has the Scrum Master approach can help organizations that are undergoing this process. Also, for companies that are new to Agile and they are adopting Agile as a new way of work, then a Scrum Master is going to be very critical for adjusting organizations in this track. So this is how you kind of would grow. For the product track, you grow a little bit more vertically into product leadership and strategy. So you may start as a product owner with, a product, you senior product owner, and then you could be a product manager, perhaps a senior product manager, and you could also end up as a head of product or director of product. So this would be a little bit more the product track. So I think we also have information about the marketability. So the market demand, I would say it is very high for both because they are complementary. They go hand in hand. So any organization that is implementing Scrum is going to need Scrum Masters and product owners. They can't exist one without the other. As I said, Scrum is a very prescriptive approach where the three roles are very well defined. They have very specific roles and they have to coexist. So there's demand for both. Now let's see where our CSM more need is. There's a very strong demand across IT services, consulting, because as I said, they help a lot with coaching, with transformation. Anytime that enterprises are undergoing a transformation process or maybe adopting Agile for the first time, there's a very high adoption in what we call BFSI, so banking, financial services, and insurance, in healthcare, in telecommunication, and large enterprises. It's a very stable demand because as organizations scale Agile from maybe one team to multiple teams, they're going to need this type of knowledge. The salary range, as you can see it there, it could be in India from 10 to 35 lakhs, or in the US from 90,000 to 130,000. Of course, these are ranges that can vary significantly by geography and experience. It's not going to be the same somebody who's working, for example, where I live in the Washington, D.C. area, where cost of living is extremely high, so salaries tend to reflect that, than if you are perhaps living in another area of the country where cost of living is going to be lower, right? So those are just ranges for you to keep in mind. Now, CSPOs, there's a rapid growth and demand for CSPOs in software as a service, in fintech, in digital platforms, in any company that is product led. So wherever they're building products, especially in startups, in global tech firms, that is going to be a strong demand. So product driven business models. This is where certified Scrum product owners are going to be in high demand. And the salary range, as you can see, it's just a little bit higher than the Scrum Master. So you can have in India 12 to 40 lakhs, or in the US 100 to 150,000 per year. Again, mentioning and qualifying that these are going to vary widely with your experience. It's not the same as if you're a Scrum Master than if you are a senior enterprise Agile coach. So as you saw, there's a different track that your career path can take you, and that is also going to be important to keep in mind.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And I think this has also answered the question that we had about the marketability of the certifications out there. So with that, I think we are going to talk more on how Simplilearn prepares you for CSM and CSPO. I received a few questions on YouTube and LinkedIn about the CSM and CSPO and how they can apply for this and the highlights of the program that we are providing at Simplilearn. So because you are a mentor with us as well, Louisa, it would be great if you can walk them through some of the key highlights of what they can expect from Simplilearn courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key highlight here is that it's not just memorization. It's not just how many hours of training you're going to receive. It is the ability for your trainer to help you apply the knowledge to real world scenarios, because that is what these certifications are looking for. They're not just wanting you to memorize things, but to understand how to apply them in real world. So what Simplilearn is going to offer you for either one is a 16-hour of live training by certified Scrum trainers, right? For the CSM. It's very hands-on learning, right? So when you choose the CSM path with Simplilearn, you're going to earn that Scrum Alliance certificate, and you're also going to receive a 2-year membership to Scrum Alliance, right? Your exam fee is included, and it includes one free exam retake. You're also going to be able to obtain 16 Scrum educational units, or for those of you that are PMPs and that are maintaining your certification, you also receive 20 PDUs that you can apply to maintaining your PMI certifications. And you're going to get complimentary access to 15 additional courses that are valued at $500 with 4 mock test papers. Now, for the CSPO, you'll also receive those 16 hours of live instructor-led training. You can also earn Scrum Education Units 16 and 16 PDUs for those that need the PDUs for PMI certifications. You also get access to 15 value additional courses that are worth for $500. And as we mentioned, because there is no exam, but it does require very engaging and active participation, this is what this course is going to offer. It's going to be very immersive learning with games, with role play, with simulations, real world case studies, and you're going to have very experienced certified Scrum trainers that are going to help you understand how to really drive that value to your product. You are also going to earn your Scrum Alliance certificate upon your successful completion of the training, and you will obtain the 2-year membership as well.
Right. That was great to know about the key highlights. And one question that we get a lot from the audience is also about the skills covered as a part of these courses and how that can probably benefit them if they are looking for a job or for getting into a better role.
Yeah, so as you see, the skills that you obtain with each of the certifications is very extensive. For the Certified Scrum Master, you are basically going to understand the Scrum framework extremely well. You are going to be able to apply the Scrum framework. You're going to understand what a sprint is, what are the different events and ceremonies, how to facilitate those ceremonies, when do they start, when do they happen in the sprint planning or in the sprint cycle. You are going to have abilities to coach your teams, to enable teams to work more efficiently. You are going to understand Agile values, Agile principles. You are also going to understand the product backlog refinement, even though that is not that's not something that you own, that is a CSPO role. But you do have to understand how to work with the CSPO, with the product owner as a Scrum Master. Most importantly, you're going to learn how to resolve issues, how to make sure that stakeholders collaborate, how to make sure that teams are efficient, that they are protected from outside pressure so that they can do the work. So you are going to be a master in protecting and enabling the Scrum process. Now with CSPO, you're obviously also going to learn about the Scrum and the Agile framework, but you are going to focus on leadership skills to manage Agile teams. You are going to understand what owning a product means. How do you determine the vision for a product? How do you plan releases? What does this mean? How do you prioritize different increments or different tasks in order to maximize value for your customers? That is what release management means. You are also going to gain skills of managing stakeholders, learning how to say no, learning how to manage different expectations, setting boundaries, making sure that you know how to handle competing demands or competing requirements from different stakeholders, and ultimately how to make your product better. So product testing, product quality, product vision, everything that has to do with the product is what you're going to learn.
Right. And I think you have covered almost all the important aspects of what we cover in our courses. And from here on, I'm just going to talk to you all about the success stories from our alumni members. So you can definitely go to our course page and see a lot more about the reviews shared by all of our alumni members and also our current learners. So you can definitely go and take a look at it there. And I'm not going to dive deep into it right now because we are also currently like almost towards the end of the webinar and we would like to share more details with you in the Q&A as well. So we received some queries about the program investment. So for CSM, the Indian learners, our course fee is 17,135 rupees, and for US learners, it's $349. You can, scan this QR for more details. This will take you to the course page, and you can read all the benefits of the course. We have tried to highlight most of the key important aspects that are covered as a part of CSM in this webinar. But if you would like to know more details, please go ahead and scan this QR code. And if not now, we will be sharing the slide deck with you and you can definitely go and check it out even there. And for CSPO, for Indian learners, again, the fees is the same. So it's 17,135. And for US learners, it's $349. Again, this could consider this a program investment and not just the course fee. It is, we also spoke about the career paths. It can probably open up for all of you. So if you are considering this, definitely do check out our course page for details. And if you would like to know more, I will quickly launch a poll. If you click on a yes, our team will reach out to you and they will try to give you answers for all of your questions. So I'm going to quickly launch the poll right away. And I hope the poll is visible to all of you right now. If you are interested or if you have any additional questions, our team will be more than happy to help you with it because unfortunately in the webinar, we will not be able to address all of your questions here, but our team will be more than happy to assist you. And if you have any questions in the meantime, as you are all are answering the poll, you can also post your questions in the Q&A box and we can take this up because the next poll that we will be launching will be for the certificate. So before that, if you have any questions for Louisa regarding the CSM or CSPO, you can definitely ask us in the Q&A box.
Thank you, Shweta. And I think we had two outstanding questions that I just answered. We had covered the PDUs. So you do get
Right.
20 PDUs for the CSM and 16 PDUs for the CSPO. And in terms of Agile, yes, there are other certifications that are available. But yeah, today we're focusing on the Scrum certifications. I think that's all the questions that we had in our Q&A. I don't know if you have
Yes.
some other questions that are in
Yes,
our other
I think
platforms.
I have one other question, and I think this is also something that you had mentioned earlier. It is which exam is harder? Is it CSM or CSPO?
Okay, so as you know, the CSPO doesn't have an exam. It requires active participation during your training. So your instructor will be gauging if you are actively participating, if you are understanding the concepts, if you are able to apply the theory to the case-based scenario. So there is no formal exam for the CSPO. For the CSM, there is an exam. It takes 60 minutes. It has 50 questions, and you do need to answer at least 37 of those questions correctly. So it does require you to be able to have very structured knowledge and be able to answer questions on a time pressure and be able to apply the knowledge to scenario and to real world application.
I think there's one more question. It's about how the exam timing. Well, when will the exam be? And I have a very similar question also on YouTube. If it's basically, can I take the exam anytime during the year, or is there a fixed slot?
So you do have a limitation of 90 days after you complete your training. So once you get the email that you have completed the training, that is when the 90 days clock starts ticking and you have to take the exam within those 90 days. And I do think that that is a good thing because sometimes I see students that they never feel 100% prepared. postponing. I'll study more next weekend or next month when I don't have so much work. And when you start postponing taking the exam for too long, a lot of times people then don't end up sitting for the exam. So I do think that having that very specific time window for taking the exam ends up being in the benefit of the student, so that you are forced to plan ahead and know that you do have to take your exam within 90 days after completing your training.
All right, I think we have answered most of our questions and we are almost wrapping up the session. So you can share your questions. We will try to answer them. And I am receiving questions about the certificate poll. So I'm quickly going to end this poll and launch the next one. Um, I hope the certificate poll is now visible to all of you. All you will have to do is fill up your full name and you will be receiving this slide deck, the recording, to your email ID and the certificate within 48 working hours. If you don't receive the certificate within 48 hours, then you can reach out to us. And for anyone who's joining us from YouTube or LinkedIn and have stayed with us till the end of the webinar, you can mail us at webinars@simplilearn.net. And if the poll is not visible to any of you in today's webinar, again, you can mail us at webinars@simplilearn.net. You can just take a look at the email ID mentioned, and we will be sharing the certificates and the slide deck with all of you as well. And as you all are filling up this form, I would also like to take the time to thank Luisa for being such a wonderful speaker. I really enjoyed hosting you, and I'm sure the audience also enjoyed hearing from you and got a lot of great insights from you in today's webinar. So once again, thank you for joining us. It was great having you.
Thank you so much, Shweta, for having me, and thank you for all the participants to staying with us. I hope that this was very useful information for you.
Right. Thank you once again. And with that, I'm going to end this poll. And we have one last poll for all of you. So we usually don't launch this poll, but you guys have stayed with us till the end. And we are planning on organizing more webinars around CSM and CSPO. So we would like your thoughts on that, around the topics that you would be interested in joining us for. So I have launched a poll for that as well. What format of webinar are you looking for in this specific domain? And if you give us your thoughts on it, we will try to come up with new webinars and new topics that might be of more interest to all of you. And we will also try to add value to all of you as well. So please share your responses. I'll just keep this poll running for a minute and then I'm going to quickly end the poll for all of you. So please go ahead and give us your responses. And as you all are filling up the poll, I think I would also like to thank all of you for staying back till the very end of the webinar. It is rare to see such segment where all of you shared your responses with us. It was nice to see that you are interacting with us and taking away a lot of insights from the webinar. So thank you for being here with us and for such wonderful participation. It was great hosting all of you. And I can see all of your responses in the poll. So I'm going to end this poll and we will try to deliver exactly what you need. And we will try to come up with much more interesting webinars. So please to join us again. It was great hosting all of you. So see you all next time for the upcoming webinar. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to end this webinar now.